Then a dispute arose among them as to which of them would be the greatest. They're still thinking of, this is it. End time eschatology. We're about to go in the kingdom. I want to be in the White House, Messiah's White House. And Jesus, perceiving the thought of their heart, took a little child and set him by him and said to them, whoever receives this little child in my name receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me. For he who is least among you will be great. What happens to us where we come to Jesus Christ? We're just so broken and we're just so humble and God is so big and we're so unworthy. But then after a while, we get a little fat and sassy. And we start thinking, I'm something special. I'm really amazing. Consider the difference between dogs and cats. The master comes home and pets his dog, and the dog wags its tail and looks up and thinks, he must be God. But then the master pets the cat, and the cat purrs and falls asleep thinking, I must be God. That is the difference between dogs and cats, by the way. Cats really do not care about you. They don't. We begin like dogs. He's the master. He's great. He's awesome. Wow. But then this feline theology creeps into our own personal walk, and we start thinking, I'm special. I need a position of greatness. So Jesus puts a little child in front of them. And the idea of a little child was very important because the Jewish Talmud regarded any time, especially if you were in theological studies, any time spent with a child is a waste of time. Can you imagine that? And what Jesus was showing is like, you guys think you're so great, but your greatness is determined by how you treat the weakest among you, or what you would call the most insignificant among you. If you're really great, those are the people that will concern you. And John answered and said, Master, we saw someone casting out demons in your name. That's good. And we forbade him. That's bad. Because he doesn't follow with us. Jesus said to him, do not forbid him, for he who is not against us is on our side. Evidently, there's this itinerant Jewish exorcist who is somehow attached or related to Jesus, has power, it is working, and I can't explain how that all, because we're not given the information, but the apostles are bummed out. He didn't go to our church. And it's very similar to the story we just read. The stories are put together by Luke for this purpose. The same root problem is pride. In Romans 12, Paul says, I write to all of you that you ought not to think of yourself more highly than you ought to think. Don't think of yourself more highly than you ought to think. Jesus says, don't forbid him, for he who is not against us is on our side. I love the way Moses answered Joshua when Joshua said, Moses, there's a couple of dudes around here named Eldad and Medad, and they're prophesying in the camp. You need to stop them. This is in Numbers 11. We read that, 40 years ago. We were in Numbers. Remember what Moses said? He said, Joshua, are you jealous for my sake? I wish that all God's people would prophesy and the Holy Spirit would be on all of them. This isn't a competition here. Or how about Paul the Apostle? He's in jail. He's in prison, and he writes to the Philippians, and he understands that some people are seeing Paul's imprisonment as an opportunity for them, preachers, to exalt themselves in their own ministry in Paul's incarceration. And Paul says, what do I care? I rejoice that Christ is preached, whether if it's for a good motivation or a bad motivation. Do you know what he's saying? The message has the power, not the messenger. It's the message. And if the message is being preached, don't care who the messenger is, don't care what the motivation is.